Hello, everyone. Welcome. Thank you so much for coming to our spotlight session for G Suite here on day 2 of Next. My name is Andrew Stillman. I'm on the product marketing team for G Suite, and I'm here today to talk to you about how G Suite is driving transformation for businesses and to share with you some of the newer product capabilities that we're building to make that transformation even better. I'll be joined by my colleague Sam Lugani, who will talk to you about security, change management, and how to quantify the business impact of G Suite. And then we'll be joined by Jerome Grateau from the G Suite EMEA team. We'll have a conversation with a G Suite customer, Hilda Clune, to talk about the transformation that PwC has experienced with G Suite. So customers move to G Suite because they want to reimagine their business. I know we use the word transformation a lot at this conference, in this industry, but when we talk about transforming work, this isn't just a technical transformation. This is bigger than just moving from on-prem to the cloud. This is truly driving a cultural transformation that completely rethinks the way people in your business can work. So why is this transformation important? Look, you're all here, you all know that change is all around us. It could be new competitors that could upend the status quo, new technology that could give you an edge, evolving customer needs and expectations. Businesses need to change to stay competitive. You need to be able to adapt in order to continue to innovate and succeed. So what's holding people back? What's holding businesses back from driving this change? Often it's legacy tools. Legacy tools preserve the status quo. They make it harder to transform. Think about individual work being done on a desktop, people emailing files back and forth, version final, V2 final, really this time final. Data is siloed. Oftentimes, institutional knowledge gets lost that could actually be really helpful in decision making. Time is often spent on repetitive tasks. People spend hours and hours digging through emails, trying to find files, rather than actually doing the job that they were hired for. So this is inefficient. It's not a great use of people's time. But more than that, it also kills morale. It's very frustrating for employees and can lead to a disengaged workforce. You need to have a cloud-native solution to actually drive a real change that will solve these problems. And that's where G Suite comes in. G Suite reimagines how businesses work by powering teams to be faster, smarter, and more collaborative than ever before. Fast, smart, together. These are 3 key benefits of transformation, and we'll talk about each of them in a little more detail in this session. First, I'd just like to tell you about some of the incredible momentum that we've seen with G Suite. There are 1.5 billion people around the world every month using the applications that are part of G Suite. There are 90 million students and educators using G Suite as part of their educational process. These students are the workforce of tomorrow. They enter the workplace, and they expect to be able to work and collaborate in the cloud as seamlessly as they did in university. And as you heard earlier today, we have over 5 million paying companies running their business on G Suite, and we've added over 1 million in the last year alone. This includes digital innovators, companies like Deliveroo, Monzo, and Spotify, who built and scaled their businesses with the help of G Suite. It also includes many established market leaders who turned to G Suite to really drive a true transformation. This includes respected enterprises like PwC, Carrefour, Fiat Chrysler, Roche, Airbus, and many others. These are companies that are trying to invest in their people to set their business up for future success. So the first benefit of transformation that I talked about, make it fast. When I say fast, I don't just mean speed at an individual level. That's part of it, though, saving time, getting your work done faster. But it also means your company can move faster. Think of bringing a product or a service to market more quickly than your competition, being agile in response to new threats. How can your company make it fast? Gantt is a great example of this. Several years back, they wanted to open a new store here in London, a flagship store on Regent Street. This is a process that typically used to take them 12 months from start to finish. That's a long time. But they were able to do it in just 3 months because with G Suite, there are teams in 3 different countries. They had design, manufacturing, and operations teams in the UK, Sweden, and Portugal. All of these teams were able to move quickly and be on the same page with each other. They're able to work in parallel paths. This happens often in G Suite. In G Suite, teams can work in parallel because it's real-time collaboration built for the cloud. It's not collaboration bolted on as an afterthought. It's really at the center of the way people work in G Suite. Only one version of a file or a document. No waiting for someone else to send you the most current version. No finding yourself locked out of a spreadsheet that's being edited. This means you can quickly reach consensus and make decisions as a group. That's how companies like Gantt are able to move so fast. We also want to save your employees time by integrating with the different SaaS services that people use. The average employee uses over 36 different cloud services, and that can lead to a lot of distractions and context switching, which is why we've built G Suite to be an open platform for enterprise apps to connect to. We have a robust marketplace of add-ons that includes Salesforce, SAP, DocuSign, and many others. So this reduces distractions because you can take action without leaving the window. So for instance, a salesperson might be in Gmail, and they're looking at an email from a customer of theirs, and they can update the Salesforce record from directly inside Gmail. They don't have to switch screens. So as you heard this morning in the keynote, we're very excited to be bringing Google Assistant to G Suite to really help you remove friction from everyday tasks, get more done, especially on the go, so that you can maintain more time for yourself. We have several new capabilities that we're launching today in beta. There's a URL up there for all of them, so snap a photo if you want to join. This is available to all G Suite customers starting today. And these capabilities include the ability to ask Google, what's on my G Suite calendar? The ability to create, cancel, and reschedule meetings. The ability to send quick email messages on the go. Maybe you've just left a conversation and you want to send a follow-up note, or you're running late and you want to let the team. And the ability to dial into a meeting hands-free. This is great for those of you who are multitasking as you drive. We're also bringing Google Assistant into meeting rooms with Hangouts Meet Hardware. So for those of you who don't know, Hangouts Meet Hardware is our all-in-one video conferencing kit that allows you to turn any room into a video conferencing room. So if you have the Asus Meet Hardware kits, you'll be able to use your voice commands, to join a meeting, to exit a meeting, to dial in another phone number, and much more. This is also available in beta today for G Suite customers who are using the Asus hardware kits. The second benefit is make it fast. Excuse me, make it smart. We already did fast. I'm trying to go fast. Make it smart. And when I say smart, I'm not just talking about AI. Obviously, AI is a key piece of a lot of the magic in G Suite, but it's also being smart about using insights and data to make better decisions as an employee and as an organization. So breaking down silos, giving teams access to information and knowledge, and empowering them to make more data-driven decisions. An example of this is the company Ulin, which is a global healthcare and social services group based in Spain. So they wanted to improve the overall quality of the services they're providing, and they started using forums to capture satisfaction and feedback from individual locations across their 14 different markets. So essentially, this is information and feedback that otherwise might have been lost and just known in market, but everyone was able to easily submit it in forums. This came from both employees and also the people they were providing care to. Ultimately, this information gets aggregated in sheets, and a whole team of administrators back in headquarters can all work in that sheet simultaneously, looking at aggregated insights from across their different locations and trying to figure out the best ways to improve quality of care. Ultimately, they saw a reduction in complaints. They went down by half, and they saw double the amount of positive feedback. So they were able to implement some real change thanks to G Suite. G Suite helps you make it smart by breaking down silos. One way to do this is to bring the power of Google Search to your business. 2 years ago, we introduced Cloud Search. This is a capability within G Suite to help your employees search and find every digital asset and every person in the company. Now, Cloud Search can also connect to third-party data. Data sources like SAP, Salesforce, and SharePoint can all be indexed. That means you do a single search inside G Suite, and you'll be able to pull data from all of those external sources as well. We also want to help you easily analyze large amounts of business data, a key way to make better decisions. But we don't want to just make this available to analysts and data scientists. We want to empower a broader set of employees in your organization to start bringing data into their decision-making process. So as you may have seen in the keynote earlier today, we have functionality called Connected Sheets, which takes the simple interface of Google Sheets and combines it with the power of BigQuery. So this capability allows you to collaborate in Sheets on up to 10 billion rows of BigQuery data. It doesn't require any SQL knowledge, and it gives you the ability to use simple interfaces like pivot tables, formulas, and charts directly on a very powerful data set. We're also using AI to help make it easy to write fast and error-free. Last year, we introduced Smart Compose to Gmail. I'm sure many of you have probably used it and enjoyed it. This is the feature where you write a few words and it starts to suggest a way to finish the sentence or a phrase you might add. As we mentioned yesterday in Thomas's keynote, this saves 2 billion characters every single week. That's a lot. And now we're bringing this functionality to docs as well. This is available in beta today for G Suite customers in English. It helps you minimize spelling and grammar errors. It can help you build out legible sentences from raw thoughts. And it's great for writing things in mobile on the go, where it takes more time to type each word. We're also using AI to make spelling and grammar suggestions even more helpful. So Grammar's going to start using, as David mentioned earlier today, neural network technology to catch even more grammatical errors. In our initial testing, we found that 50% more suggestions were accepted by users without any loss in accuracy. So it's great to see that grammar just getting more and more powerful. We're also introducing spelling autocorrect suggestions into docs. Again, this is another functionality that's currently in Gmail, where if you have a typo or you're starting to write a word incorrectly, it suggests an alternative. This also taps the power of Google search, because as new words enter the English language, our AI can automatically figure that out and start to enter them into the dictionary that the suggestions come from. Not only that, our ML can also learn words and acronyms that are specific to your domain. So every company, Google certainly has a lot of them, has jargon, has acronyms, has phrases that are only in your organization. And of course, right now, if you type that, it's going to get a red squiggly underline. But ultimately, our ML will start to learn those words and phrases and even automatically suggest them to you if you misspell them or mistype them. The third benefit of transformation is make it together. We believe collaboration, a culture of collaboration really brings out the best ideas and helps teams work more smoothly around the globe. A great example of this collaboration is Deliveroo, a company based, of course, here in London. They're scaling rapidly. You've probably seen them all over town. They're also scaling to a lot of countries. They're now in 14 markets. And one of the first things they do every time they open a new office in a new country is they set up Hangouts Meet, because this is the way that the local team on the ground is going to stay connected to the operations team in headquarters. Hangouts Meet helps distributed workers have face-to-face interactions, even if they're on the other side of the globe. This deepens relationships. This helps you build trust with the people you're working at. This helps allow remote employees to feel connected and feel like they're part of the team. And we're adding more and more features to Hangouts Meet every year. So some of the things we've introduced recently include expanded international dial-in support, the ability to have up to 250 participants in a meeting, live streaming capabilities for things like all-hands meetings where you can have up to 100,000 participants, and functionality like live captioning, which uses AI to automatically create captions of what's being said in the meeting. This is really helpful if you're in a crowded room and you can't quite hear what's being said, or perhaps if English is not your native language and seeing the words on the screen is easier than hearing in a crowded conference room. Another piece of our UCaaS offering is Google Voice. Earlier this year, we introduced Google Voice as an add-on to G Suite. This is our cloud telephony solution designed to replace your traditional PBX. So Voice makes it easy for admins to manage, to provision phone numbers at scale, to set up call menus, and much else. It also has a very simple, familiar interface for your end users. It's currently available in 9 different countries in Europe and some other markets globally. The final piece of our communications offering is chat. So as many of you may know, we've been building a next-generation chat service that includes rooms, bots, and a more advanced chat experience. Initially, we had built that as a separate standalone service, but we're now in the process of integrating it into Gmail. This is in beta today. This means that all of your team's communications are in a single window. You don't have to bounce between an email screen and a chat screen. You can have everything all at once. And we recently introduced guest access in beta. So this means that it's easy to invite collaborators from outside of your organization to be a part of your team room, because oftentimes you're collaborating very closely with people beyond your company. And in fact, collaboration outside of your organization is also one of the reasons why we've designed very advanced interoperational capabilities. So we know that even if your whole organization moves to G Suite, and we hope you do or already have, there are still plenty of people you work with who are using Microsoft Office, whether it's customers, partners, or others. We've made sure that G Suite seamlessly interoperates with Office so that you don't have to spend your time worrying about coexistence. We introduced the ability to do native editing within G Suite of Word documents, of Excel spreadsheets, of PowerPoint presentations, without converting the file. So you're not converting it from Excel to Sheets and back, you're just natively editing the Excel spreadsheet. And this includes all of the G Suite functionality you love, like comments, tasks, and real-time collaboration, while maintaining the file format. This makes it easier to be confident about making the move to G Suite. I'd now like to introduce Sam Lugani to talk to you about security in G Suite, change management, and the business impact of making a transformation.
Thanks, Andrew. Hi, I'm Sam Lugani. I look after product security on G Suite. Now, Andrew talked about how G Suite is helping organizations become faster, smarter, and more collaborative. At the very core of all this is security. So let's talk about it. Often we see organizations suffer due to cyber attacks. Phishing continues to be the #1 attack vector, with about 91% of attacks starting with a phishing email. Now, alongside that, ransomware has increased by about 15x over the past few years, and attackers are constantly changing tactics. Employee negligence is also increasingly has a bigger part to play in some of these data breaches. So essentially, it's really hard for admins to manage a large organization, and they are overburdened. Now, that's where scale comes in and helps us with security. In security, scale matters a lot. As an example, every minute, we stop about 10 million spam messages from entering Gmail inboxes. And we go through about 700,000 pages for malicious content. Now, what does that give us? It allows us to use these security signals to create better machine learning models to figure out what an attack looks like while it's in the making. The way phishing attacks happen is that initially, there's always a small attack which happens to see if that attack can actually be successful before a massive campaign is launched. With these security signals, we can figure out what a major attack would look like eventually and stop it much earlier. This helps us design products which do a much better job of recognizing attacks in the making. So let's talk about a few of these. We'll talk about ways we protect users, ways we protect devices, and then finally, ways we help you protect your data. Yesterday, we announced the Advanced Protection Program for the enterprise at the keynote. Now, Google's Advanced Protection Program has been there for a few years, and it's really designed to protect targets which are at a very high risk of an attack. People like journalists, activists, business leaders, and political campaign teams. We're taking that core concept of the Advanced Protection Program that Google has built and bringing it to the enterprise. So with the Advanced Protection Program for G Suite, we do a couple of things. Once you figure out what those high-risk users are within your organization, we automatically enforce security keys on them. We also limit OAuth app access to only the apps which you have explicitly trusted as an admin. And finally, we do enhanced email scanning on their inboxes. Now, with security keys, we've had 0 reported or detected account hijackings after security key deployments. And the email scanning is pretty cool, because one of the features in that email scanning is something which we call the security sandbox. So if we find that there is an attachment which is suspicious in that user's inbox, we take it, we spin up a virtual machine live, and we detonate that attachment within a virtual machine to see what would have happened if that user was to actually download it on their desktop and execute it. So essentially, we're trying to mimic user action before it actually gets to the user. Let's talk about protecting your devices. We've also launched endpoint management for G Suite. Now, previously, you used to be able to manage mobile devices within G Suite, and you had both fundamental management without the need of profiles and advanced management with profiles. Now, we're extending it to all endpoints. So now you can manage Macs, Windows devices, Linux boxes, and Chrome devices on G Suite through the fundamental desktop management. Now, the beautiful thing about this piece is that it does not need any profiles or agents to be installed on the device. Because the problem with agents is that most people don't love them on their devices, so as a result, you don't really have full-scale deployment of an endpoint management solution. So because we don't have an agent on the device, when you're unboxing G Suite for the first time, everyone that accesses G Suite, you will have basic controls on their device. You could wipe accounts on mobile devices, or you could log people out from desktop devices as soon as they access any G Suite data. The second piece, which I'm really happy to announce, is context-aware access for G Suite. Now, context-aware access allows you to define very granular policies on user access to G Suite data. Based on where the user is, the kind of machine they're accessing that data from, and the patch levels on that device, you could actually set a policy saying that only certain access is required. So let's take an example. If an employee is within the organizational boundaries, maybe all access is allowed, whether it's Gmail, whether it's Drive, whether it's Calendar. Now, let's assume for a second the employee is traveling and is at an airport. Maybe you only want to allow access to Gmail and Calendar, but not any Drive files. Or if an employee is traveling to an unsecured location, maybe the only access they need is Calendar access. So that's based on location. But you could also do it on patch level. So if you have a Mac device which is running at a patch level of 10.6, maybe you only allow access to Gmail, but not to Drive, etc. So it really allows you to have very granular controls on employee access. And this is available in general availability for G Suite. Now, protecting your data. Admins in large organizations receive about 5,000 alerts every day. And almost half of them are not investigated. Now, that's a huge problem. Admins are really overburdened, and we want to alleviate that problem. So we're introducing automated alerts and automated rules within the security center. Now, with that, you will be able to set policies to take automated action when an event happens. So let's say if you're receiving more than a set number of emails from a certain domain, or if you're receiving 10 emails within the span of an hour, which have certain keywords which you do not want your organization, which you do not want to have within your organization, you can set those policies and automatically send those emails to quarantine. You can also do the same thing on files. We're also introducing app access control in G Suite, which allows you to have OAuth protections around the apps you want people to access. So for example, if you only want people to access trusted apps, you can set that via app access control. Now, this is something which is really close to my heart because the genesis of this is what we do really well, which is collaboration. So G Suite does collaboration really well. But if you look at the admin world, things are still a little archaic. We're still exchanging docs with each other, version 1 final, etc., and screenshots with each other to figure out what an investigation would look like. We want to change that for the admins. We want to take the best of what G Suite offers with the collaboration on the G Suite side, on the user side, and bring it to the admin world. So we're introducing collaboration within the security center, where you could share investigations with each other, and you could really work on things together, where multiple admins can assign things to each other. They can take care of exfiltration and email deletion at the same time collaboratively. So let's take a quick look of what that looks like. Can we switch to the demo machine? OK, perfect. So I'm logged into the G Suite admin console. And I'm the admin on this admin console. And here we have the alert center, in which we see that there's been some suspicious activity on a certain device. And the severity of that is high. So we can click on this alert, which directly takes us to more details around what this activity looks like. So there's a device which is owned by Marissa, and it's a Chrome OS, and we've seen some suspicious activity. So right from within the alert center, we can investigate this alert by clicking on Investigate Alert, which takes us directly to the investigation tool. And these queries are pre-fed. So we can see Marissa's device has some suspicious activity. Now, we know by experience that a lot of these attacks happen because of phishing emails. So I can pivot on Marissa and figure out all the different emails she's received, which we tagged as suspicious. So there's one such email. It says, action required, verification of pension account. As an admin, I can click on this email, I can see the message headers, and I can actually also see the message, but that requires a justification for me for audit purposes. So I can see Marissa's received an email. It had an attachment which we can actually download. It has the SHA hash on it as well. So if you're running a SIM system or if you have different AV services, you can actually run this attachment through those AV services as well. And it has the thread around whether Marissa actually replied to this email as well. In this case, she hasn't. Now, my concern is that if this attack came in to Marissa, there's a high probability it's coming into other folks within my organization as well. So I can pivot on the subject, and I can see everyone within my organization that has received the exact same email. And there's 20 people within my organization that have received the exact same email with the exact same attachment. So first step, I want to proactively delete these emails from users' inboxes, because a lot of them might not have yet clicked on the email. So I can select all these emails, and I can delete emails. It would still ask you to type in a delete 20 messages text, because we want to make sure that you actually want to delete these emails. This is not reversible. And once I've deleted these emails, there is another person within my organization who's better adept at figuring out if these devices were compromised and if any data was exfiltrated outside the organization. So I'm going to share this investigation with Chad, who's another admin, and ask him to take a look at data exfiltration. Now, this is Chad's admin console. Now, Chad loves wearing beanies, so for the next 2 minutes, I'm just going to try and be Chad and wear a beanie. It suits the London weather better as well. So Chad received an email from Sam saying that, can you take a look at data exfiltration? From within this email, he can directly open this investigation and go to the admin console. Now, the beautiful thing is that Chad has the exact same context on this investigation as to what I had. So Chad already knows I've taken a look at this email. I've figured out that there's multiple people within my organization that have received the same email and have deleted these emails from users' inboxes. Now, the next step is to see if any data was exfiltrated outside the organization. So Chad can pivot on all these users and see if they have shared any drive files outside the organization. So we select all the folks, and then we say that, has there been a visibility change of a drive file which was earlier internal but now is external? And about 45 files have been shared, including the budget proposal, including product roadmap, etc. So the next step I want to do is limit this file sharing. So I can select all these files from within the investigation tool, and I can audit these files permissions. Now, within a few clicks, I can select all these files and limit sharing to within the organization. So that's a really quick way to see how two people, one was an expert in email phishing, and the other one was an expert on data exfiltration, collaborated to stop an attack effectively. We'll get back to the slides now. And I have to talk about trust, because the fact that we are building our trust with customers is very, very important to us. And for that reason, we launched Access Transparency earlier this year. Now, with Access Transparency, anytime a Googler accesses your G Suite data, we will send you a notification as to what data was accessed, why that data was accessed. So if there's a support case which was needed to access that data, that's documented, what the actor's home office was, and specifically what file of what user was accessed within G Suite. And that information is available in the admin console for your audit records. Now, beyond that, we're clear about our commitments. You, our customers, own your data, not Google. We do not use G Suite data for advertising. We do not sell your data to third parties. And our practices are audited against international standards. So we've talked about security. Let's talk about how we can confidently go Google. Now, in G Suite, everyone is on the same version. There is no concept of version control or patches. And that's why we're successful at making sure people collaborate. 76% of the time in docs, slides, and sheets is spent on multiple people working on the same document at the same time. Because when people collaborate, they challenge existing norms, and that's when change really happens within the organization. There's been a lot of big organizations confidently moving to G Suite. ATB Financial moved about 35 terabytes of data to G Suite, and Colgate-Palmolive moved 23,000 users with a brilliant partner of ours over the course of a weekend. We also commissioned a total economic impact study with Forrester, which found that G Suite has an ROI of upwards of 300% over 3 years. And there were some findings which were key to this study. The first was there was an increase in revenue because people were collaborating across dispersed teams in a much better way, and so revenue increased for the company by about 1.5%. There was an increase in employee efficiency, wherein we saved about 1 month work hours per year of an average employee who was using G Suite. There's, of course, risk mitigation. We significantly reduced the risk of a data breach, and that's due to some of the security features we talked about. And of course, IT cost saving, because you don't have to worry about patches, versions. Everyone's on the exact same version. Now, this is the perfect time to call upon Hilda and Jerome on stage to talk about how PwC went about their digital transformation journey with G Suite.
Hello, Hilda. Hello, everybody. Please introduce yourself. Tell us what are you doing at PwC?
Thanks, Jerome. My name's Hilda Clune, and I'm the global executive sponsor for Google Cloud Technology at PwC. And we have just finalised our implementation of G Suite across the network, so globally. We currently have about 275,000 people using G Suite today.
So 270,000 people. That's a big number. So tell us, how did you approach kind of this deployment, especially around like change management and behavioral change?
Yeah. Quite honestly, when we initially looked at the implementation of G Suite, this was back in 2015. We really did look at it as a replacement for our email and calendar solution. We were on a legacy solution that was quite old, and we were really looking for something that really disrupted the way we worked. So very early in the journey, we did take more of a technology replacement mindset, but not long after that, we realised that our role was changing from owning technology and supporting technology and managing technology to being a consumer of technology. And G Suite had the potential to really change the way we work together. So we flipped the narrative and took a change-led approach to the implementation. So it was really about change management. It was about how the user and the technology came together. It was about bringing that to life, recognising that people were going through their own personal transformations with their own personal technology, and how we built on that to really leverage the opportunity that came with the suite.
Fantastic. So PwC is quite good at measuring, counting. That's core of your business, I will say. So how do you measure success? Because we are speaking of change. How do you measure success of change?
Well, very early on, we were celebrating every implementation. I mean, we're a network of 155 different territories, all independently owned. But very quickly, what we really wanted to understand was what was the real impact G Suite was making on our network. We're a global organisation like every other, and working cross-border was difficult. But moving everybody onto G Suite really opened the doors to collaboration, whether it was in your office, in your territory, or with other territories in the network. The way we looked at success was through actually using BigQuery and looking at all the very detailed data logs to really explore the insights on where adoption was thriving versus where adoption was maybe requiring a little bit more support. But we have incredible statistics today. So in September, we hit 1 million meets across the network. And what we saw with the data that supported that particular data point was 40% of those meets are ad hoc. So if I want to have a conversation with someone, instead of picking up the phone and calling them, I would just flick them a meet link and they would just click on the link. So, and the growth of the number of video meetings we have is a multiple of the legacy technology. So for every million minutes that the legacy was reducing, we're increasing 5 times that in the way Meet has been adopted. In the way that we work collaboratively using the Drive apps, it's just incredible for an organisation like ours. You know, we're a knowledge organisation, it's all about sharing, it's about co-creation, and it really did unlock a lot of the barriers to working together.
So you have built this kind of fantastic dashboard that kind of gives you a visibility about the behavioral change. How do you use this dashboard to engage with I would say, the leader of the organization to kind of accelerate, foster this organization, this change?
Yeah, I mean, it's really interesting because, you know, as soon as the dashboards were available, the demand for them was incredible. Like, we didn't have to sell insights to our territories. The key with the dashboards were going beyond the data, understanding the behavioural changes. So the measurements were showing frequency of use, but also behavioural aspects of how people were using the technology. And, you know, the minute those metrics and insights were available, there was an incredible demand to tell the story of how G Suite was changing the way they work in territory. That was something that we built through BigQuery and Data Studio. Yeah, it goes well beyond the kind of usage statistics into the more behavioural aspects of the suite.
So being able to measure like the behavioral changes
It's
is
just
in your
incredible.
communication.
And I think you need to be able to measure the uplift in usage, but it's also good to measure the downtrend of the legacy, because you can't always turn legacy off. But you really do see behavioural shifts when you have a comparison or a data point to kind of measure it against.
Great. So Sam spoke about security. Security is key in what PwC. You are like dealing with like very sensitive data from your clients. So tell us how G Suite helps you to address your like privacy and security needs.
Yeah, I mean, and that has been an ongoing, continues to be an ongoing conversation with us. I think the key is not to look at security in isolation, but to look at it in the context of what we're trying to do. Privacy and security are utmost. I mean, our brand is based on trust. Our clients expect us to be rock solid when it comes to the safety of their data. And so we're constantly reviewing the work practices of Google in terms of security, very, very sophisticated practices. And at the end of the day, we continue to satisfy ourselves that the work practices and the security practices that you have both meet privacy needs but also our security standards. So that's something that, like any other technology, is constantly being reviewed and assessed. But you know, we have the whole network on G Suite, so it's working quite well.
Cool. So you recently said that you are moving from deploying Google to kind of creating with Google.
Yeah.
So what does it mean for your team and for the organization?
So deploying Google over the last 3 or 4 years has been really quite interesting, because through the metrics and the measurement, we can actually see the tipping point of mature adoption of the G Suite. But then what happens? I mean, G Suite is many applications coming together. Where we wanted to replace calendar and email, we ended up with way more than we expected, with collaboration tool sets, with other social platform, all of those sorts of things. But actually, it comes with some really very effective digital tools as well. And we saw a lot of pockets of innovation popping up where people were using AppScript to, or Google Forms, and starting to build solutions to everyday problems to help either create more efficiency or to automate. And that's really been a big focus for us. So we now have a theme that's called Create with Google. So Create with G Suite. How do we take the platform and this collective community of people who are very competent in using the platform and build on that some of the digital skills that we need to develop every day as we become more digitally focused. So that's a particular sort of category for us where we're focusing to that next level of value.
And how does it kind of help you to position the value of IT within the organization, like the perception of your team and the value it brings to the overall organization?
Well, it's really disrupted traditional IT. I mean, I'm a former CIO. I was the CIO of the Australian firm for 8 years, so I know what it's like to run an IT operation. And, you know, this kind of service is a IT leader's dream. The kind of, I think I talk about the blessed silence that comes with moving to the cloud. But when it comes to the team that, you know, as a consumer of technology, the team looks very different. It's allowed to kind of shift the thinking to the next level of value, to grow the skill set, you know, and to move away from the tactical day-to-day operational aspects of running a system. So in fact, you know, moving to this kind of service allows you to think about how you design an IT team that's much more focused on adoption. It's much more focused on how we make the best of people and technology coming together. It's a very different profile. So it's changed the face of how we think about IT.
So, and perhaps to finish with, like, you are yourself kind of a leader of a global team.
Yeah.
I think that you are based in Australia. And so how does kind of using Google help you to engage with your team, and does it change the way you kind of bring your team together?
Yeah. Look, it's a good question, and to be honest, I had some reservations about trying to do a global role from Sydney, but actually it's the Google suite that's actually allowed me to be effective in that role. So in any given week, I will do up to 30 or 40 video meetings. Phone meetings don't feature in my day. So I have a team that's scattered through Europe, the Americas, and in Asia. And the standard way of operating is through Meet. In fact, I have a Chromebox at home. So, you know, it is a really interesting way to work. I love it because I have 2 kids. So if I'm up in the morning at 5 a.m. doing my US meetings, I'm usually done by about 10 or 11. And then my Europe meetings in the evening, people don't really know where I am, you know, and I actually really love the fact that I have a few hours in the middle of the day. Now, it doesn't negate the need for me to travel, but it does reduce the need for me to travel. So, you know, I still travel once every 3 or 4 weeks. But without that technology, I would have to be in the air a lot more and physically present a lot more. So it's completely changed the way, you know, the way I work. And it's really been an important foundation to me in doing my role as a global executive.
Thanks a lot for sharing your own experience. So with that, thanks a lot, everybody, for attending this session, and thanks again, Hilda, for your presence and your sharing your experience.
Thank you.